Okay, so I'm going to start with the data warehouse because I think this is the most easy to understand. What is a data warehouse? This data warehouse is working using the GaussDB technology, the engine GaussDB. How does it work? Basically like a database. When you go to the data warehouse console, this is the first thing that we want to see, the cluster that you already have. So you have 1, 2, 3, 4 cluster of data warehouse. You will be listed. They will be listed in these parts. So you can check the status here. Most of, they should be all available. And something important, you cannot turn off or pause the services. So if you want to do something with the cluster, basically is stop. So you can stop or restart. So because in some cases someone asked me if I want to have the data warehouse for 1 hour and turn off for 3 hours, no, the billing will be equal for because you will have available the data warehouse for 4 hours. Even if you're not using, you will be charged because they are turned on. So you cannot like stop like virtual machines. No, this is a platform that is 24/7 in use. So this is important because this is not like serverless service. It's a platform. So the first thing we're going to see here is this, the configuration. So when we're talking about the data warehouse, there are two main points. Number one is the operational things. I mean, when you go to the data warehouse, you want to see if everything is under control. For example, the storage that you are already using. So for example, you have like a 70 or 80% of the storage used, maybe you need to delete some data or increase the capacity of the cluster. So this is for the operational or the management part. So this is the first thing we want to review in this session. The second one is how to use it. Basically, the users, what they want to do, queries. I mean, there are two kind of users for the data warehouse, the operational parts and the users that make queries to the cluster. Okay, so the operational part is this one. What you can see here is the data about the cluster. I mean, how many nodes, the storage, if they have a IP, public IP, so you can connect any client from external to the environment to Huawei. You will see, for example, here the public IP. So we can connect, for example, a Beaver client, external client, or Power BI, or any other client to this data warehouse using these connection parameters. The default port is this one, 8000, and the default database is GaussDB. So with these parameters, you can configure a connection to the data warehouse. For example, let's check right now. If we're talking about Power BI, we only need to configure an ODBC connection. I mean, you go to the Microsoft Power BI page, download the ODBC driver, install, and you can configure the the access to the data warehouse. Basically, you need only the IP. I mean, this is for another demo, but this is the same idea. The IP that is this one, the username, port, and password. And basically, that's all that you need to connect any client to the data warehouse. In this case, for example, this is for Power BI, but it's the same idea for dbeaver, for example, or a Python script with using a psychopg2 library. The idea is it's like a database. User, password, server, and ports are the things that you need, and the drivers, of course. So this is very important. It's very easy to connect with any other applications. Okay, this is about the cluster. I mean the general information. So also something important is the monitoring panel. So if you want to see the resources they are already using or the status of some queries or some users or some sessions, here in this part of the monitoring, you can see the details about the sessions that are open or the queries that are running, or maybe in general monitoring the cluster. For example, how many queries are running in this cluster or the capacity of the database. So general information, you can check it later in, yes, you can check it later. So what from here, I want to show this part. I think it's very important. If you can manage the users or their queries or the sessions, active sessions. For example, if someone complains because his session is low or his query is low, you can go directly to the monitoring part, this real-time queries, and you can see which queries are running or are alive. So for example, if this query, uh, for example, you also have the query here, insert into blah, 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 this SQL language, traditional, and this is not complicated. And one user say your query is very slow or this query is taking too much time, you can click here and terminate and finish the query, kill the query, and you will release that load from the data warehouse. So it's important because if some user has bad practices or makes something wrong, you can control those queries in here in the same console. So you have the control of the operation of the yes of the operation of the data warehouse. And also you can see by users or for the session IDs. So if you have many open sessions, also you can terminate those sessions to release the connection to the data warehouse. I think this is important for the operation and maintenance of the cluster. You have the control of the user of the session or also for the queries that are running. And also if you want to do forensic analysis, you can go to the historical part and see the historical queries that have been executed. So if you say, oh, the last day there was a user that make an about query, you can you have the ability or the right to check who is doing that, just to control or have the monitoring in the same platform. I think this is the most of the very important for the operation and maintenance of the data warehouse. And other things you can see here. So I think we can review some functionalities later in a session specific for data warehouse. Just for this session, because it's very general, we don't have too much time. I want to show I think these three main points. Number one is the cluster configuration, cluster, uh, network or general information is here. So you want to see what is the IP, public IP to connect your client is here. You want to receive the password, reset the password, also you can do it from this part in case one user forget his password, right? Here, reset password. So you can control your cluster, your administrator task from here, from the console. Second one is the monitoring part, especially in this about the real-time queries and historical queries. So you have that traceability or that auditing tool to see who is executing query at what time and which query, and the status also. So you can have this visibility about the users of your cluster. And the final one, I think, is the most trivial, is the editor. I mean, the end user who is going to use the the cluster basically to query data. So in this part, you have your internal client from the cloud. So you don't have or you don't need to connect external clients always. So you can do your queries here and execute. This is very basic, very simple, but it's for quick queries, right? If you want to do more complicated things, for example, you can use the DWS that is a more complete client, or connect another client like Tableau, Power BI. That's the point. I mean, the characteristic or the reason to be of the data warehouse is to query data. You can query data using this internal client from here, SQL editor, or you can use external clients. That's no problem. You can connect. You can use the data warehouse. It can be either inside the cloud using SQL editor or using external clients. I think this is the goal or the message I want to show you. And also from here, this SQL editor, you can see your databases that are active or that are there, right? For example, here in this account, the Huawei staff showroom, I think this is a totally recommended to show to the customer, because in here you can show like more complete or more real scenario. I mean, you have many databases. For example, there is an integration here for Airflow, right? There is another for advertisement. There are foreign tables. So you want to see how the schema of the table uh, or some details of the table, you can see here, right? So you can see Yes, more details or more real scenarios. I mean, for example, foreign tables. How do you create a foreign table? You can use from here and take this like as a reference, right? Basically, is create foreign table number, name of the table, specification. I mean the the columns is here. It's just I mean some configurations. But I think this is important just because if you want to show like a real scenario, like many databases, foreign tables, internal tables, partitional tables, in this account, you have already some tables that can help us in that part, just to see the service in action. Okay, this is the quick summary about the data warehouse. I don't know if at this point you have any question or any requirement, any comment.